Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for making time to be with us tonight for MUUSJA'S annual meeting. I'm Kelli Clement, MUUSJA'S Northern Regional Director. As you'll soon see, tonight's gathering isn't so much a meeting as a year in review, a chance to reflect on where we've been and to look ahead at where we're going. While nothing is certain in these pandemic times, this much we know is true. We aren't going it alone. We need you, our partners in community, by our side if we're to move ever closer towards bending the arc of the universe towards justice. So thank you for all the ways that you've shown up for justice this past year. It mattered. Before we move into the core of our program, I'd like to center us in time and space with a land acknowledgement. We gather together as a community of justice seekers to celebrate the interdependence of life, to respect the dignity of all, and to honor the land we dwell humbly upon. Let us take a moment now to acknowledge that we reside on the traditional, ancestral, and contemporary lands of Indigenous peoples. Let us recognize and continually support and advocate for the sovereignty of the Native nations here in Minnesota and across our borders. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm tribal sovereignty and commit to holding our MUUSJA community accountable to American Indian peoples and nations. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Native people who have stewarded it throughout the generations. We will not erase them. If you have a chalice with you, I invite you to join me in lighting it at this time, as together we create shared sacred space for our gathering this evening. Our chalice lighting words come from the Reverend Jamie Yandel. We light this flame to ignite the sacred power of justice. We light this flame so that it may be a beacon of hope in moments of uncertainty, fear, anxiety, and the unknown. We light this flame and are emboldened by its blaze, knowing that our strength as a prophetic and powerful people is rooted in the diverse ways that we answer the call to love. If you want to hold up your chalice, if you have it with you, so we can share the light that we bring to this space tonight.
When we are so assaulted is the only word that comes to mind, assaulted by the news of the world and feeling like we must hold back this tide, this storm, it can feel pretty lonely. And especially, you know, a small social justice group in a congregation or one group that's working on one particular thing. And MUUSJA helps us feel like we are not alone. We connect with other Unitarian Universalists across the state and actually across the country because MUUSJA's hooked into the state advocacy networks. It really gives us a sense of movement building. And I just feel like, especially in this pandemic year when we're all in our own little individual spaces trying to do some work, MUUSJA continues to connect us. So I think what MUUSJA does is amplify the work that's already going on and connect people to help build this power.
MUUSJA has done some great things, but This sounds like it might be the most far-reaching and most important of all the things it's done.
The thing to me that's different is that it isn't simply a single project. I mean, so far, everybody that I'm talking to fully understands that we are building this coalition for what happens after the 3rd of November, not what happens on the 3rd of November. That we know very well that we're, you know, kind of just getting started. So being able to sort of build those connections and build that network, you know, the sense now I think that people have that it is fundamentally the network that matters and not any one single event and not any one single issue.
After the 3rd of November, do you mean how do we prevent the coup?
We really am going to be pushing for people to kind of take a look at some of the election protection issues as a first step, but there are pieces around that step that also have to do with then feeding into building a rapid response network, building resilience, you know, possibly building sanctuary spaces as needed. So yeah, you know, we know that resilient people are people who can face hard realities and prepare for them and prepare for the hard realities that we cannot necessarily prevent, but that we can be ready to meet, right?
Was MUUSJA doing okay financially in this effort? I know there was a little grants, and then we're doing all this extra stuff.
You know, we're not going into the red. We're not making any money particularly, but we've had donations for, oh my God, probably like almost $3,000 worth of postage. So yeah, I mean, we totally have been, you know, breaking even as far as costs of the project.
No, the board must be so happy. I mean, with the amount of things done.
They're happy with what they are really happy with what's going on and guardedly optimistic about 2021.
Perfect. Like as we all are.
As are we all. Yes.
Yes. Brother Anthony talked about that trauma, right? We are carrying so much trauma in our bodies. There are days when I feel like I can't move on. And then I've come here. And this is the little secret that I learned from my elders, is that we are not only a community, we are family. This is what beloved community looks like.
I shared earlier, I'm the racial justice director for MUUSJA. I was brought on last fall, and specifically to organize what eventually became the racial justice convening, which was held in February. Racial justice organizing is kind of my jam. It's my educational background. It's what I do in my spare time with the Filipinx community in the Twin Cities. And it's super essential to my work as a religious educator. So this convening and this work with MUUSJA was like all the stars and all the things that I'm passionate about kind of aligning and coming together. So for those of you who this is kind of new to, the racial justice convening was 5 sessions over 2 weeks, where basically I gave a little like 15-minute mini lecture about social justice theory and then talked people's ears off about being vulnerable and open and reflective. And then for an hour, everyone was in breakout rooms with UUs from across Minnesota and the Dakotas to reflect on 2 conversation starters. And so the idea behind this was really that reflection is necessary, right? If I ever get to a place where I think I am done reflecting, that is a sign that I need to stop and drop everything and reflect some more. Most of the time, attendance was 100% white. We never had enough BIPOC participants to have a viable BIPOC-only breakout room, which is something that we predicted would happen. So another goal of this convening was to give white UUs an opportunity to sort of work through some stuff in these small circles together, held very, very beautifully. And that was really in preparation or parallel to the more hands-on work out in the community, and particularly with BIPOC organizations and members who didn't really need to be witness to that messy and important process. And then also huge credit to the volunteer planning team that met with me and with Karen every week and helped sort of untangle and add to my imaginings. This was always a collaborative effort between the planning team and the facilitators, and then the worship leaders and tech support, and also the participants. And so I hoped the end result of this convening would be a continued collaboration and partnership on racial justice work across congregations. So this was an opportunity to meet and bond with UUs around racial justice. And along the way, at every single session, we encourage people to stay connected outside of and beyond that convening, because that's where the magic really happens. So getting people in the room and convincing them this is worthwhile is one thing, but it's on the participants to then form partnerships and call each other up and say, hey, my congregation is doing this really cool thing. Does your congregation want to partner with us on it? Or, hey, we met at the racial justice convening. You want to go to the Stop Line 3 event on Thursday with me? Things like that. We know that racial justice is never going to happen if we just work on it individually. And any of you who've done some sort of community organizing know the importance of connections and coalitions, collaborations, things like that. So that's what I hoped would happen in a really, really organic way with the racial justice convening last month. MUUSJA's #1 goal right now is to connect UUs across congregations through social justice work. This is the model that community organizers use. It's tried and true, and it's beneficial. We know it's beneficial to have a group of people that we can lean on for support and inspiration. And also, this is an idea that UUs have struggled with. It's one of those sneaky things, right? We know that individualism is a problematic symptom of white supremacy culture. We know that. And still it sneaks in these really, really sneaky ways into our organizing work. And so as an effort to combat that, we're offering these convening circles so that people can connect. They can have this way of connecting with each other and pushing back a little bit on that individualism and things like that sneak in. And I just think this is so exciting. I love that I don't have to save the world on my own. I really love having people I can count on and share space with. And I love being inspired by other people's work and figuring out how we can collaborate on something together. That's been one of the best part of organizing for me. And then another piece of that sort of subtext through all of this is that social justice is a piece of who we are. It's part of what we're called to as Unitarian Universalists. It's a lifestyle. There is no clear endpoint, and unfortunately, sometimes there aren't even wins and losses, and it never ends. And so the only way that can possibly be sustainable is if striving for social justice is understood as a lifelong practice, and also one that we do together. And this is my favorite one. We have the little person, we have the head work, which again is the reading and thinking, the heart work, reflecting, how do you feel about it? And the hand work, which is, doing things. And then finally, I have our racial justice roadmap, which is a circle, not because we're, going around in circles and spinning our wheels, but because we need to visit these places a lot. We need to visit them over and over again.
How does that all fit together in a way that creates a kind of joyful synergy without burning us out? Where is it that MUUSJA comes in without simply becoming, oh my God, one more Zoom meeting, kind of thing. Obviously y'all can tolerate that because you're here tonight for this, but we want to sort of think about going forward. How does it all fit? And what we're seeing is that the work that we do in MUUSJA is not in any way a substitute for the congregational social justice work. So that moves forward in a hyper-local context within the congregation, either on Zoom or hopefully soon in person, right? We do not have to do it alone. We do not have to suffer and slog through the process of struggling with injustice. It is work that we do for our lives and with joy and in community. And that's how it doesn't burn us out.
After the Racial Justice Summit, made some great friends with folks in Duluth, some additional new faces from St. Cloud. And that's really encouraging because they're excited to collaborate with us. And so it opens the door to incredible possibilities so that we're not just doing the work with our own community and feeling burned out even amongst ourselves for sometimes the work we can do, but when we can partner with others from other congregations, it just strengthens everything.
I hadn't had much contact with MUUSJA before getting involved with that planning committee for the racial justice convening, but I'm the racial justice facilitator for UUCM, and our minister let me know about that opportunity. It was really, really eye-opening for me to interact with the folks on the planning committee, partly because it was a different way of planning something. It was more organic. The way we did it, I think, was more organic, with ideas kind of bubbling up along the way rather than someone being in charge and being the facilitator. And I think I've tried to bring some of that style into my work at UUCM and tried to make sure everyone in the group feels empowered to bring forward ideas rather than having more of a top-down style. So partly I got a lot out of just the organizational style, which was different from what I'm used to, but also it was really useful to have deep conversations with the people who were organizing, because it made me think again what's important in our racial justice work and in my racial justice work, and how can I talk about that? How can I be welcoming in my interactions? And how can I bring that along to my own congregation? And I also think I started thinking more about my own work as being really important to think about dismantling white supremacy as something that I, as a white person, can do. I think I have come to have a greater appreciation for the importance of BIPOC organizations and places for BIPOC people to be that aren't invaded by white people. And so I think that's been part of of what I got out of that convening. And it also kind of opened me up to what's going on in other churches. And I do visit other churches' websites from time to time to find out what are they doing that we might be interested in doing, and that might resonate with our own work as a congregation. The people who are affected are the ones who need to figure out what they want for reparations. And so I thought, well, maybe I need to wait and see what they want before I start thinking about what I want. But and that's something that this whole MUUSJA racial justice convening also, it's helped change change my thinking a little bit about that. But one other thing that I wanted to say about the MUUSJA racial justice convening is, I don't think I would have gone to the UUA New Day Rising conference if I hadn't done the racial justice convening work.
MUUSJA is an active member of the Sanctuary State Coalition for Minnesota, an organization of multiple congregations We held forums with Maria Elena Gutierrez from Fe y Justicia in St. Cloud and with organizers from the Interfaith Coalition on Immigration. And we teamed with Isaiah's Immigration Support Network and the amazing Sanctuary and Resistance team from First Universalist Church in Minneapolis. We showed up and hosted a vigil at the Whipple Building where federal immigration judges hear cases around deportation from a 5-state area. And some of us attended protests at the Sherburne Prison and Detention Center up in Sherburne, Minnesota. Even with a new federal administration in 2020, we have not seen major changes in immigration laws or immigration justice. And this remains a priority for MUUSJA and many of our congregational partners. The Elder Justice Circle forums in May focused on matters of life and death, including end-of-life options and how COVID vaccines were developed.
The other comment I was going to make is that it would be great if this could be even more simplified and made into a puppet show.
Oh, I wish I had more time because that sounds like it would be amazingly fun for me. But yeah, I mean there's a definite need to get the information out to more people because people are very empowered once they know how things work, and then they can teach other people and they can like reason through things.
One of the reasons that I am interested in and engaging in this work to stop Line 3 is that I think that those stories we tell about the places we live and about who we are really shape the possibilities for the future. And I'm interested, like others have shared tonight, in how we tell a different story and live a different story. How can we be truth tellers and be accountable to those difficult histories while at the same time doing the good work of making sure that that our children and our grandchildren and Native people and others have a healthy future, that other cultures can thrive, and that we can do the difficult work of repair, reparations and repair. These things are something that I'm interested in.
I just want to urge people who are still on the fence and not sure of what to do and how they can plug in, that there is a multitude of ways that you can get involved in the fight. There are so many different ways to be in resistance of this pipeline and help uplift our voices and help those of us who are terrified and raising children here on the front lines.
You know, I always think about, you know, what was said to us, like, what will you do for the water? And, you know, what he said to us was, what would happen if all of the women of the world said no more? Said to the cities, the counties, the corporations, the mining companies, we will not allow you to pollute our water anymore. And, you know, in the Ojibwe culture, and really, I think all cultures of the world, you know, it's always the women who gathered the water. And because we are the life givers.
I just want to, miigwech, thank everyone and be so grateful to be here with my sisters and all these women. And I know there's a lot of men there too, but just a really beautiful, beautiful time. And, you know, in spring is coming, there'll be a new birth. You know, let us stand strong and be beautiful and make something new, make something good. And it's a pleasure and a privilege to stand with you all at this time in our lives and to sing with you.
Miigwech for the space. Miigwech to all of you. It's beautiful to hear a water song, close the evening out that way. And yeah, just reiterating, please get involved and find your way and find your way to share your gifts with the world. It's very, very needed to connect with each other. I think if this pandemic has shown us anything, it's that we need to be connected and what we really care about, which is each other. And yeah, miigwech. Lots of love to everybody.
Because I just always.
Without MUUSJA, I don't think that the UUs that I helped bring to Minnesota would have found, we wouldn't have found our way to the multi-faith camp. Perhaps we wouldn't have found our way to the congregation in Duluth, the hospitality, the inroads that MUUSJA gave us, introducing us to people, showing us where to go, were just so invaluable.
White people might be finished, but the indigenous people are not finished with line 3. And that made me reconsider my white world and my ability to be done with things quickly, although I have been involved for 8 years, so it's not so quick.
It's not so quick, yeah.
No,
yeah.
but you know, she really helped. And then we decided as the pipeline resistance team to make it more broad about all fossil fuels and fossil fuel resistance and ending the fossil fuel era, so that we're meeting still weekly, and we've taken that kind of a approach to divestment, for example, and still doing things like monitoring the line, trying to get the Army Corps of Engineers to do their EIS, their duty, and there are still frack outs and leaking of oil and drilling. And so the camps, I know MUUSJA is still staying.
Yeah, MUUSJA, I saw they just put a call out for some
Yeah.
supplies and things. So I was going to try to amplify that a little bit, you know, so we can always get stuff up there. That's, yeah.
What an amazing privilege it was to travel the state, to meet with and provide support to local UU congregations as they worked to promote who we are, the people who affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of all, and what side we're on, the side of love. While we wondered early in the year if there would be any Pride festivals at all, we were glad to have a brief window this summer where such events could be planned and held, and wow, was it ever great to see folks in person. We kicked off the Pride season this year with the return of Twin Cities Pride Festival in July. MUUSJA collaborated with many helpful and joyous volunteers from First Universalist Church of Minneapolis, First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, and Minnesota Valley UU Fellowship to staff the booth for 2 full days. Our newly designed poster pointing folks to a congregation near them via QR code helped visitors from across the state find congregations that would welcome them into beloved community. In August and September, we traveled to Pride events in Bloomington, their first ever Pride Festival, Fargo-Moorhead, Duluth, Mankato, and St. Cloud, where we helped to staff tables and engage our LGBTQ+ neighbors and allies with both the social justice work we're focused on and the underlying principles that drive our work in the world for justice and beloved community. We met and talked with folks who had never heard of Unitarian Universalism, those that recognized us as the side with love people, and those who'd grown up as UUs in other places and were looking for their congregational home in a new place. And we reminded all of us that UU congregations are places where folks are held as whole and loved just as they are.
And I have to tell you that in all the years of being on the board, I have just always just loved the other board members. We just, in addition to doing our work, we check in with each other, we share things going on in our personal lives, and, you know, we become friends. And so again, that's a big draw. But as you know, the main reason for valuing my participation in MUUSJA is knowing that I'm contributing to major social justice causes in the state. And just knowing that I am a part of a statewide justice alliance that is very effective in its work. So it's just, it makes me proud. It makes me proud to be a member of the board of MUUSJA. And I get so much information that I then can share with my congregation. And so they feel more connected statewide as well. There's just, we don't feel so isolated, and we're working on great causes. Another thing I appreciate so much about UUs is that we are comfortable with other faiths as well. And so the opportunity to learn about other faiths and even, you know, have these warm, wonderful friendships with people of other faiths, that to me is so rewarding and so important.
As you look at MUUSJA, I think we have a somewhat unique place in the overall UUA ecosystem, you know, in that we can bring together members of congregations, not only Minnesota, but you know, neighboring states. We can tie in, you know, state and national organizations outside of the UUA, you know, justice groups. And, you know, I think some congregations might be able to do that all on their own. I think the majority are not. So I think we really provide that critical mass, you know, that is often necessary to make a difference. You need to have enough people. You can have great ideas, but if you can't round up the people to execute them, then they're just great ideas.
I mean, I'm very, very happy to talk about the fact that we want to, you know, we have this great staff, and we really need to, you know, be treating them, you know, like we'd like to be treated, and that is to, you know, have a living wage and some benefits that go along with it. So yeah, most of the money we make goes to our staff. You know, our other expenses are pretty nominal, I think, but staffing is a key part of it. So
it is inherently an issue of social and economic justice, because the way that we're able to fund our staff has huge impact on who out there in the UU ecosystem has capacity to be our staff, right?
I think that MUUSJA is seeing a lot of growth in building connections right now. Well, I joined because Judy asked, and I don't think I would have ever even thought of that as a thing to do until she asked me. And MUUSJA has just been a really important thing to me. And so I just couldn't say no. I've been telling people that MUUSJA has been kind of part of my mental health in the last couple years, feeling like I'm participating and connecting and really doing things that matter to me and having a sense of purpose. The board in general, we laugh at our meetings. It's a good, healthy relationship between us. I just want to say we're a small team, and we're in UUs in general, we're a small group, but I feel like we make a big difference. And part of that is how we work together and how we connect with other organizations. And I'm just very proud of this organization. I feel like we've just kind of started our IDI work as a board, and I've already feel like my eyes have really been opened, and I'm really interested to see where we go with it.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It just seems like such an opportunity, and one that I think, as we've talked with some of the congregations that have sort of set foot on this journey as well, one that points us into developing just some new skills, new strategies, maybe new priorities. So we'll see, I think that's going to be shaping some of what we do in 2022.
Hi, my name is Kathy Peterson. I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Duluth. I'd like to share with you one or two reasons why working with the Board of Directors for MUUSJA has been an enriching experience for me. I truly appreciate all that is learned through MUUSJA and all of the possibilities that we might be able to share with not only this congregation, but congregations across the state. It's a great place to be. Thank you.
It's just very empowering and strengthening. And if we're looking at with our mission for unleashing this collective power, the only way to do that is to make connections and build upon each other. We can make differences as an individual, but if we can connect with other people and work toward those same issues, I mean, we can do it through those Unitarian Universalist churches, it makes a huge difference. I think we can work towards some sustainable change and some systemic change. It takes all of us to do that. And I think we're all in great positions to do that. And we just have to learn how to work together and ease our way into it sometimes, and other times just go for it. So I would say absolutely our dollar goes very, very far. We have virtually no overhead. We do have, we try to pay our staff what we can, and our goal is to pay them an equitable wage at some point, a livable, sustainable wage. So that would be very important for us to be able to reach. We can't rely on grants. Grants are wonderful, and we can't rely on just an occasional fundraising effort. It's that sustainable income that's coming in that's going to keep our organization going. I'm a sustaining donor because it's living out my Unitarian Universalist values in a much broader way that connects us statewide and even nationwide. Adding additional part-time staff has really helped, but I think having a full complement of staff, eventually in full-time positions, would be very beneficial. That helps with communication, getting the word out. It helps with we can't just focus on one thing. There are so many justice issues that need our attention, and we need staff to help drive those things. Volunteers come and go, boards come and go, but that organizational staff are the constant. And so if we can support them and gradually add additional folks under that umbrella, that's going to strengthen us as an organization.
The staff and board of MUUSJA, I want to thank you for being with us. As we close our time together, I'm reminded a bit of a Mary Oliver poem sometimes, in which she says, "Instructions for living a life. Pay attention. Be astonished. Tell about it." Lots of times in MUUSJA, we notice a cycle that calls this poem to mind. When folks first find out about us, they get a simple awareness of us, that there's even such a thing as MUUSJA. And then somebody in their circle, some other UU tells them, come join us for this action or this forum. And they become more aware and they start paying attention to MUUSJA. And before they know it, they're astonished. They're meeting their people, they're connecting and making these important contributions. And the next thing you know, they're putting their values into the world, and being astonished, they start to tell about it. And that cycle continues with another person who becomes aware. So may you continue the cycle, taking whatever step is next for you, responding to calls for action, talking with other UUs about our work, stepping forward to join the board maybe, or helping sustain our work and our mighty tiny staff with your donations. And in any case, continue to tell about it. And now I invite you to extinguish your chalice with Mary Oliver's words, pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. Good night, my friends.
If you'd like to unmute and just say goodbye, please do. We can make noise now.
Hi, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone.
Thank you for being
Bye.
here.
Bye. Love you all.
Bye-bye. Love you too.
Goodbye.